The small cafe on Maple Street smelled of roasted coffee beans and warm pastries, the kind of comforting aroma that usually made people feel safe. But for Emma Carter, safety was a luxury she hadn't known in years. She sat at a corner table, facing the window, pretending to look calm while her fingers trembled around a steaming mug. Across from her, her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was happily coloring on a paper placemat with a red crayon, her soft curls bouncing with each movement. To anyone watching, they looked like a normal mother and daughter out for breakfast. But inside, Emma's stomach churned with dread. She kept glancing at the clock, 10:27 a.m. He was late. Daniel was never late. That only meant one thing. He wanted her to wait, to sweat, to be scared. He had texted her the night before. Meet me at the Haven Bistro. 10 a.m. Come alone, or you'll regret it. Her throat tightened remembering those words. She'd promised herself she wouldn't go, but Daniel had a way of finding her no matter where she hid. He'd shown up at her workplace once, yelling in front of customers, almost costing her job. She couldn't risk that again. Emma brushed a hand through her dark hair, trying to steady herself. She had once loved Daniel, back when he was charming and full of dreams. But those dreams had soured into control, jealousy, and bruises she'd had to hide. Leaving him had been the hardest thing she'd ever done. Staying gone was even harder. The cafe door chimed as someone entered. Her heart skipped, but it wasn't him. Just a man in a tailored suit, tall and composed, who took a seat at table 15 near the window. He looked like he belonged to another world, confident, wealthy, unshaken. His presence drew subtle glances from the waitstaff. Emma didn't recognize him, but she'd soon learn that his name was Ethan Cross, a billionaire tech investor who rarely appeared in public without headlines following. Today, though, he sat quietly, laptop open, coffee untouched, occasionally looking up at the morning light spilling through the glass. Emma's attention snapped back to the door as it opened again. This time, her pulse spiked. Daniel. He walked in with that same arrogant swagger, leather jacket, smirk, the kind of presence that made people instinctively move aside. His eyes locked onto her instantly, dark and dangerous. Emma's hands started to shake. She grabbed Lily's hand beneath the table and whispered, "Stay quiet, baby." Daniel slid into the booth beside her, uninvited. The smell of his cologne, sharp and suffocating, made her nauseous. Well, he drawled, tapping his fingers on the table. "Didn't think you'd actually show up. I just want peace, Daniel," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "Please don't make a scene. Lily's here." He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. "Then give me what I want." Emma's body tensed. She knew exactly what he meant, custody. He wanted to take Lily away, not because he cared, but because he knew it would destroy Emma. Across the room, Ethan glanced up from his screen. Something about the scene in the corner drew his attention. The stiff posture, the pale woman clutching her child's hand, the man leaning too close. Ethan had seen fear before. He recognized it instantly. He couldn't hear their words, but the tension was enough to make him pause. Daniel's voice grew harsh. "You think you can keep my daughter from me? You think you can hide behind that restraining order?" People nearby began to notice, whispering softly, but no one intervened. Emma's throat tightened. "Lower your voice, please." Daniel slammed his palm on the table, making Lily jump. "I'm not done with you." The waiter, a young man named Chris, started toward them, worry etched on his face. But Daniel shot him a glare so cold it stopped him mid-step. Emma's mind raced. She couldn't call the police. Daniel would make it worse. She couldn't scream. Lily was already trembling. She had to think fast. Her eyes fell on the stack of napkins beside the sugar jar. Her fingers, shaking, pulled one free. She picked up a pen from her purse, her only weapon, and scrawled one desperate word in capital letters. "Help." Her heart pounded as she slid the napkin toward the edge of the table, hoping someone, anyone, would notice. She pretended to wipe Lily's mouth with another napkin, trying to act casual. From across the cafe, Ethan's sharp eyes caught the faint motion. His gaze flicked to the napkin. The blue ink stood out against the white. "Help." He froze. Then he looked back at the woman, saw her pale face, her trembling lip, the child's wide eyes. He didn't need to know the details. Instinct told him everything. Before the waiter could reach the table, Ethan was already on his feet. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but firm, as he approached Emma's table. "Is everything all right here?" Daniel's head snapped up. "Who the hell are you?" Ethan's expression didn't change. "Just a concerned customer." "Then mind your own business," Daniel snapped. Ethan's gaze dropped, deliberately, to the napkin. He read the word again, then looked straight into Emma's tear-filled eyes. "I don't think she's fine," he said quietly. Emma's lips parted in shock. She hadn't expected anyone to care. Daniel stood abruptly, squaring his shoulders. "You don't know what's going on here, pal. Walk away." Ethan tilted his head slightly, his voice cool but edged with quiet power. "You're right, I don't know, but I know enough." He nodded subtly toward the staff. "And I'm guessing the security cameras know too." Daniel's jaw twitched. For the first time, he hesitated. The cafe manager had come out, hovering nervously near the counter, phone in hand. The whole room was watching. Emma swallowed hard. "Please, Daniel, just go." Daniel's glare darted between her and Ethan. For a moment, he looked like he might explode. Then, realizing he was outnumbered, he slammed his fist against the table and stormed out, the cafe door slamming shut behind him. The moment he left, Emma felt her knees give out. Ethan quickly steadied her by the arm, his voice low and reassuring. "You're safe now," he said softly. "He's gone." Tears welled up in her eyes as she clutched Lily close, whispering, "It's okay, baby. It's okay." Ethan looked down at the crumpled napkin still on the table. That one word, help, seemed to echo in his mind. He'd spent his life solving billion-dollar problems, but never one as human, as urgent, as this. "I think," he said quietly, meeting her gaze, "you could use someone in your corner." Emma stared up at him. This stranger who'd stepped in when no one else did, and for the first time in a long while, she let herself breathe. She didn't know his name yet, but the billionaire at table 15 had just rewritten the course of her life. Emma couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's face, the rage in his eyes, the way his fist slammed against the table. Her heart still pounded as if he might burst through the door at any second. She sat on the worn couch in her tiny apartment, staring at the silent phone. Lily was asleep in her bedroom, clutching her stuffed bunny, unaware of how close her world had come to collapsing again. Emma ran a trembling hand through her hair. She was exhausted, emotionally, physically, completely. And yet, when the phone buzzed, her pulse leapt. It was an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Hello, Emma, it's Ethan." His voice was calm, deep, the same voice that had cut through the chaos earlier that day. "Oh, Mr. Cross," she stammered. Thank you again for what you did." "You didn't have to." "I did," he interrupted gently. "Are you safe right now?" "I think so." But even she didn't sound convinced. He paused, then said, "I know this might sound forward, but you shouldn't stay there tonight. If he knows where you live, it's not safe. I have an empty apartment downtown, fully secured, 24-hour staff. You and your daughter can stay there until things settle down." Emma blinked, speechless. "You'd do that for a stranger?" Ethan's voice softened. "Let's just say I've seen enough people look the other way. I won't be one of them." Something inside her cracked, a fragile piece of trust she thought was gone forever. Within an hour, she had packed a small bag for her and Lily. When Ethan's sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside, she almost didn't want to get in. But something in his steady gaze told her she could. The drive through the city was quiet. Lily slept in the backseat, her little head resting against the window. Emma finally spoke. "You must think I'm pathetic. Crying in a cafe, writing on napkins." Ethan glanced at her briefly. "I think you're brave. Most people would have frozen. You acted, and you protected your child. That's not weakness." Tears burned her eyes, but she turned toward the window before they fell. No one had said something like that to her in years. When they arrived, Emma was stunned. The apartment was nothing like the world she knew. Marble floors, soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering skyline. She hesitated at the door. "We can't stay here. This is too much." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's just a place. Safety isn't too much to ask for." He handed her a keycard. "There's food in the fridge, fresh linens, and a security guard downstairs. No one gets in without clearance. I'll check on you tomorrow, all right? Emma nodded wordlessly. When he left, she stood in the middle of the living room, hugging Lily close. For the first time in years, she felt protected. The next morning, Ethan returned with coffee and a gentle smile. Morning. Did you sleep? Emma laughed softly. Barely. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought someone might knock. Ethan placed a folder on the table. I made a few calls. You mentioned a restraining order. I have a legal team who can help reinforce it, and file for full custody if you're ready. Her eyes widened. I can't afford lawyers like that. He shook his head. Don't worry about that. Just worry about being safe. She tried to protest, but he simply said, Emma, this isn't charity. It's justice. Something in the firmness of his voice silenced her. That morning, she signed the papers with trembling hands, not from fear this time, but from relief. Over the following weeks, Ethan became a constant presence in her life. He checked in daily, made sure Lily was enrolled in a nearby preschool, and even offered Emma a position in his company's accounting department when he learned she had a degree in finance. At first, she refused. You've done enough. I don't want to be anyone's project. Ethan smiled. You're not. You're the most capable person I've met in months. I could use someone like you on my team. So she took the job, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. She found herself surrounded by professionals who respected her, by opportunities she'd never thought possible. Lily, too, flourished. Every afternoon, Ethan would stop by her daycare to pick her up when Emma worked late. She called him Mr. E, and insisted he attend her class's art show. He showed up in a navy suit, holding a bouquet of pink daisies, Lily's favorite. To everyone else, Ethan Cross was a billionaire CEO. To Lily, he was her superhero. One evening, a few months later, Emma found Ethan on the balcony of the apartment she still lived in, though she could now afford her own. He was leaning against the railing, staring at the city lights far below. Deep in thought, she asked softly, stepping out beside him. He smiled faintly. Just remembering your family, she guessed. He nodded. My sister, Claire, she used to work at that cafe, the one where I found you. She died a few years ago. I stopped going there after that. Yesterday was the first time I went back. Emma's chest tightened. I'm so sorry. He looked at her, his eyes glinting with emotion. She used to tell me that sometimes, the biggest stories happen in the smallest corners of life. I think she was right. A silence settled between them, gentle but charged. Emma looked out at the stars, her heart strangely calm. You saved me, she whispered. I don't know how to ever repay you. Ethan's gaze softened. You already have. You trusted me. Months passed, and Emma's world transformed. Daniel was arrested after violating his restraining order. The court granted her full custody of Lily. The fear that had followed her for years finally began to fade. On a bright spring afternoon, Emma walked into the Haven Bistro, the same cafe where everything had changed, only this time, she wasn't trembling. She wore a fitted blazer, her eyes clear, her stride confident. At table 15, Ethan sat waiting, a cup of coffee in front of him. You're in your usual spot, she teased. He looked up, smiling. And you're not writing on napkins anymore. She laughed softly. Maybe I should. He raised an eyebrow. What would you write this time? Leaning closer, she whispered, thank you. Ethan's eyes met hers. You already did that the day you walked out of that cafe alive. Just then, Lily came running up, clutching something behind her back. Look what I made, Mr. E. Ethan grinned and unfolded the napkin she handed him. In bright crayon letters, it read, We love you, Mr. E. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. His throat tightened, his composure slipping just enough for Emma to see the emotion he usually hid. He crouched down, hugging Lily gently. I love you too, kiddo. When he stood, his eyes found Emma's, and in them, there was no billionaire, no rescuer. Just a man who had finally found something worth more than all his success. Emma smiled softly. Looks like table 15 has a happy ending after all. Ethan chuckled, eyes warm. Or maybe, he said, just the beginning.